The Star Wanderer drifted through the quiet darkness of space, its silver hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain Tom stood on the bridge, his four-fingered hands clasped behind his back as he watched the stars streak by. His blue-tinted skin reflected the soft glow of the control panels, while his large eyes blinked slowly at the view before him. "Captain, engine readings are normal. We should reach the medical station in 2 days," reported First Officer Reed, her feather-like sensory crests twitching with satisfaction. The cargo holds of their ship carried enough medical supplies to treat thousands of sick colonists in the outer systems. The peaceful moment shattered as the ship's sensors screamed to life. Multiple ships dropping out of jump space called out the sensor operator, his crystalline body structure vibrating with alarm. 5. No, 7 vessels. They're not responding to identification requests. Tom's heart began beating faster. "Show me," he ordered, and the main screen filled with images of approaching ships. Their angular, predatory shapes left no doubt about their nature. "Pirates. They're charging weapons," Reed whispered, her crests falling flat against her head in fear. "Captain, we're not equipped for this. We're a merchant vessel." Tom knew she was right. Like most civilized species in the galaxy, his people had evolved past the need for violence. The Star Wanderer carried basic shields for protection against space debris, but no weapons. His crew, made up of various peaceful species, had never faced combat. "Engineering, can we jump to light speed?" Tom asked, trying to keep his voice steady. The answer made his heart sink. "Negative, Captain. They're projecting the gravity well. We're trapped." The first shots from the pirate ships flashed past their bow. A warning. A harsh voice crackled over their communication system. "Merchant vessel, this is Captain Black of the Free Space Fleet. Power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Resist, and we'll breach your hull." Tom looked around at his crew. The sensor operator's crystal body had gone cloudy with fear. Reed's crests were completely flat. The others showed similar signs of terror, each in their own species' way. They were all counting on him, but he had no answer to this threat. Then he remembered something. 3 cycles ago, a human trader had visited their port. The trader had noticed Tom's shipping routes went through some dangerous sectors and had given him an emergency beacon. At the time, Tom had accepted it mostly to be polite, not understanding why he'd ever need to call a Deathworlder for help. "They're getting closer," Reed reported, her voice shaking. "We have maybe 5 minutes before they're in boarding range." Tom reached into his captain's console and pulled out the small device. It looked so simple, just a metal box with a single button. The human had explained it would call for help from any nearby human ships. But did he dare? Humans were known throughout the galaxy as Deathworlders, creatures who had evolved on a planet so harsh that they had developed incredible strength, speed, and worst of all, a capacity for violence that peaceful species found horrifying. Another warning shot rocked the ship. 3 minutes to boarding range. Tom looked at the medical supplies in their cargo hold, thought of the thousands of sick colonists waiting for them, and made his decision. He pressed the button. For a moment, nothing happened. Then a new voice came through their communication system, clear, confident, and distinctly human. "This is Kate of the Thunder Child responding to emergency beacon. Hold tight, Star Wanderer. I'm 2 minutes out." Tom wasn't sure whether to feel relief or more terror. They had summoned a Deathworlder, one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy. As his crew looked at him with mixture of hope and fear, he realized there was no turning back now. They would soon learn if calling a human was their salvation or their worst mistake. Kate was cleaning her guns when the emergency beacon lit up her ship's console. The Thunderchild wasn't a large vessel, but what it lacked in size, it made up for in speed and firepower. She set down the plasma rifle and moved to check the signal source. "Well, what do we have here?" she muttered, reading the distress call details. A merchant vessel carrying medical supplies, caught in a pirate trap. Classic ambush scenario. The coordinates showed they weren't far, just 2 jumps away. She hesitated for a moment. Most alien species avoided humans like the plague, calling them Deathworlders and monsters. It wasn't personal. They just couldn't understand how any sentient species could evolve on a planet with such high gravity, aggressive predators, and extreme weather. Earth's harsh conditions had made humans stronger, faster, and more resilient than most galactic species, and much more comfortable with conflict. The beacon flashed again, more urgently this time. "Computer, show me the merchant ship's manifest," Kate ordered. The screen filled with inventory lists. Her eyes widened as she read through them. Vaccines, antibiotics, synthetic blood. Enough medical supplies to save an entire colony. "Right," she said, strapping herself into the pilot's seat. "Can't ignore this one." Her fingers flew over the controls, plotting the fastest route to the coordinates. The Thunder Child's engines hummed to life. The ship jumped once, twice, the stars blurring around her. As she dropped out of jump space near the ambush site, her tactical display lit up with multiple signals. 7 pirate ships surrounded a larger merchant vessel, their weapons already powered up. Kate grinned. Pirates never expected resistance out here in the frontier systems. They certainly weren't prepared for a human. She opened a communication channel to the merchant ship. "This is Kate of the Thunder Child responding to emergency beacon. Hold tight, Star Wanderer. I'm 2 minutes out." The response came quickly, filled with both relief and nervousness. "Thunder Child, this is Captain Tom of the Star Wanderer. We were grateful for your response." Kate could hear the fear in his voice, not just of the pirates, but of her. Typical alien reaction to humans. She kept her voice calm and professional. "Don't worry, Captain. I've handled worse odds." She switched channels, broadcasting to all ships. "Attention, pirate vessels. This is your only warning. Release the merchant ship and leave the area immediately." She paused for effect. "I'd hate to ruin everyone's day." Laughter crackled over the comm system. "One ship," a rough voice mocked. "Against 7 of us. Who do you think you are?" "I'm human," Kate replied simply. There was a moment of silence. Then the same voice, slightly less confident. "You're bluffing. No human would be out here alone." Kate checked her weapon systems while they talked. Shields at full power. Rail guns charged. Point defense lasers ready. The Thunder Child might be small, but she had designed it specifically for situations like this. "Want to bet your life on that?" she asked, powering up her forward guns. The energy readings would be visible on their sensors. Last chance to leave. She watched through her view screen as the pirate ships shifted formation, moving to surround her instead of the merchant vessel. They still outnumbered her 7-1, but now they seemed less certain about their odds. The pirate leader's voice came back, angry now. "Kill the Deathworlder first. Then we'll deal with the merchants." Kate buckled her last safety strap and cracked her knuckles. This was why she'd installed an advanced inertial dampening system. It let her pull maneuvers that would turn most alien species into paste. Time to show these pirates why humans had earned their reputation. "Captain Tom," she called over the secure channel to the Star Wanderer. "You might want to have your crew strap in. Things are about to get interesting." The Thunder Child's engines roared to life, and Kate smiled as she pushed her ship into its first evasive roll. She had always been good at teaching object lessons, and these pirates were about to learn exactly what a Deathworlder could do. The crew of the Star Wanderer watched in amazement as the Thunder Child moved. For a ship so small, it flew with impossible grace, weaving between laser fire as if the shots were moving in slow motion. "How is she doing that?" Reed whispered, her feather crests rising in excitement despite her fear. The sensor operator's crystalline body sparkled with renewed hope as he tracked the human ship's movements. Captain Tom couldn't take his eyes off the main screen. He had heard stories about human reflexes, but seeing them in action was different. The Thunder Child spun and rolled, each movement precise and purposeful. The pirate ships, which had seemed so threatening moments ago, now looked clumsy in comparison. Their reaction time is incredible, the sensor operator reported. The human is making course corrections faster than our instruments can track. Inside the Thunderchild, Kate was in her element. Her hands danced across the controls as she pushed her ship through maneuvers that would have torn apart a larger vessel. The first pirate ship fired a full spread of missiles at her. She didn't even blink. "Time for lesson 1, Kate muttered, flipping her ship in a tight spiral. The missiles followed, just as she planned. She dove straight toward another pirate vessel, waiting until the last possible second before pulling up sharply. The missiles couldn't match her turn. They slammed into the pirate ship instead, destroying its main engines. One down, she broadcast cheerfully to all channels. "Anyone else want to play?" The pirates responded with a barrage of laser fire. Kate wove through it methodically, letting them waste energy while she studied their patterns. These weren't professional soldiers, just bullies used to preying on helpless merchants. Back on the Star Wanderer, the alien crew was getting their first real look at human combat capabilities. They watched as Kate deliberately flew closer to one of the pirate ships, drawing its fire. "Why isn't she shooting back?" Reed asked, confused by the humans' tactics. Captain Tom was about to respond when he saw it. While the pirates focused on trying to hit the Thunderchild, they had broken their formation. Now there were gaps in their defense screen, gaps that hadn't existed before. "She's not just fighting," Tom realized aloud. "She's teaching them a lesson." Kate's voice crackled over their comm system again. "Captain Tom, you might want to record this. It's not often you get to see pirates learn about human physics." The Thunderchild suddenly accelerated to what seemed like impossible speed, using the gravity well that had trapped the Star Wanderer to slingshot around in a tight arc. The maneuver put her directly behind 2 pirate ships before they could react. Twin beams from her railguns lashed out with surgical precision, slicing through their engines. The ships didn't explode. They just drifted, powerless. 3 down, Kate announced. "And I haven't even started trying yet." The remaining pirates finally seemed to realize the gravity of their situation. Their tight formation dissolved as each ship tried to target the Thunderchild individually. It was exactly what Kate had been waiting for. "Your captain made a mistake," she explained over the open channel, her voice calm, as she continued to evade their increasingly desperate attacks. "Want to know what it was?" Nobody responded, but Kate continued anyway. "He assumed that because you had more ships, you had the advantage. But numbers don't matter if you can't hit your target." To demonstrate her point, she drove the Thunderchild straight through their scattered formation, her point defense lasers picking off incoming missiles with perfect accuracy. Every shot from her ship found its mark, while the pirates couldn't land a single hit. On the Star Wanderer's bridge, Captain Tom felt a strange mix of terror and awe. The human wasn't just fighting. She was conducting a masterclass in space combat, demonstrating why her species had earned both fear and respect throughout the galaxy. "Captain," Reed said softly, "I think I understand now why they call them Deathworlders. But maybe that's not always a bad thing." Tom nodded, watching as Kate continued her deadly dance among the stars. He had called for help expecting a simple rescue. Instead, he was witnessing something that would change how his entire crew viewed humans forever. The lesson wasn't over yet. The remaining 4 pirate ships regrouped, finally showing some tactical sense. Their leader, Captain Black, had gone silent, his earlier mockery replaced by grim determination. The pirates formed a defensive square, combining their shield power. "Trying to think like professionals now." Kate's voice held a hint of approval. "Good. That's lesson 2. Adapt or die." The Thunderchild hung in space, its engines glowing softly. The Star Wanderer's crew held their breath, watching the standoff. None of them had ever seen a space battle like this. It was nothing like the violent, chaotic explosions in entertainment videos. "Look at the human ship positioning," Captain Tom pointed out to his crew. "She's keeping us in a safe zone while threatening all 4 pirate vessels at once." The sensor operator's crystalline surface rippled with understanding. The Thunderchild is exactly 2.3 kilometers from each pirate ship. Perfect firing range for her weapons. Inside her ship, Kate was making rapid calculations. The pirates' new formation was better, but it had one critical flaw. They were so focused on defending against her that they'd forgotten about the gravity well they'd created to trap the Star Wanderer. "Time for a physics lesson," Kate announced. She fired her engines at full power, but instead of attacking, she began to circle the pirate formation at high speed. Captain Black's voice finally crackled over the comm. "What are you doing, human? Afraid to attack?" Kate smiled as she continued her circular flight path, building up speed. "Tell me, Captain Black, did any of you study gravitational mechanics?" "No. Then this might surprise you." The pirates maintained their formation, tracking her movement. They didn't notice that the Thunderchild's flight path was affecting the gravity well they had created. Kate was using her ship's momentum to twist the artificial gravity field, creating a vortex. On the Star Wanderer's bridge, Reed's feather crest stood straight up in shock. "Captain, the gravity readings, they're changing." Tom watched in fascination as the tactical display showed what was happening. The human wasn't just flying in circles. She was weaponizing the pirates' own trap against them. The first pirate ship noticed too late. The twisted gravity field caught its stern, pulling it out of formation. The other ships tried to compensate, but the gravitational forces were too complex now. Their tight square broke apart as each vessel struggled against the invisible pull. "Lesson 3, Kate called out, her ship suddenly reversing direction. "Never use a weapon you don't fully understand." The Thunderchild struck like lightning. With the pirates' formation broken and their ships fighting against the gravity field, they couldn't coordinate their defense. Kate's rail guns fired in precise bursts, targeting engines and weapon systems with surgical accuracy. One pirate ship lost its main power. Another spun helplessly, its stabilizers destroyed. The third managed to fire back, but its shots went wide as the gravity field pulled them off course. Captain Black's ship alone maintained some control, its more powerful engines fighting against the vortex. "What are you?" he demanded, his voice shaking. "No human could pilot like this." "Wrong again," Kate replied calmly, bringing the Thunderchild around for another pass. "This is exactly how a human pilots. We evolved on a death world, remember? Complex physics calculations under pressure are kind of our thing." To demonstrate her point, she cut her engines completely, letting the gravity field she created carry her ship in an impossible curve around the remaining pirates. Her guns spoke again, and Captain Black's weapons went dark. On the Star Wanderer, the alien crew watched in stunned silence. They had always thought of humans as simple brutes, creatures of violence from a harsh world. But this was different. This was art. She didn't destroy any of them, Reed realized aloud. She could have, but she only disabled their ships. Tom nodded slowly. "Because this isn't about killing. She's teaching them, and us, why humans are more than just Deathworlders." The battle was nearly over, but Tom had a feeling the real lessons were just beginning. Captain Black was not ready to admit defeat. With his weapons disabled and his fleet in ruins, he made one final desperate move. "Listen carefully, Deathworlder," he snarled over the comm. "We still have control of the gravity well generator. If you don't back off now, we'll increase it to crush the merchant ship. Their hull won't survive the pressure." Inside the Thunderchild, Kate's expression hardened. She had hoped to end this without any deaths. "Captain Tom," she called to the Star Wanderer, "what's your hull integrity?" 40% at best, Tom replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "We took damage in the first attack. If they increase the gravity, we'll break apart." The pirate's gravity generator hummed to life, and the Star Wanderer groaned under the increasing pressure. Warning alarms blared across its bridge. Reed's feather crests flattened against her head as the ship's hull creaked ominously. 15 minutes until hull breach, the sensor operator reported, his crystalline body clouding with fear. But Kate wasn't worried. She opened a private channel to Captain Tom. "Trust me," she said simply. Then she did something no one expected. She started flying toward the gravity well's center. "Have you lost your mind, human?" Captain Black laughed. "You'll be crushed too." "Fun fact about humans," Kate replied calmly. "We evolved on a planet with much stronger gravity than most species. What crushes you barely slows us down." The Thunderchild dove deeper into the gravity well, its reinforced hull handling the pressure. Kate had upgraded her ship specifically for situations like this, inspired by the crushing depths of Earth's oceans. "More power to the generator," Captain Black ordered. "Crush them both." But Kate had counted on his desperation. As the generator strained to produce more power, she tracked its energy readings carefully. Every device had its limits, and she had learned long ago how to find them. The Thunderchild spiraled down through the increasing gravity, moving faster and faster. The maneuver seemed suicidal, but Captain Tom suddenly understood. "She's using our weight," he explained to his frightened crew. "The human is adding our mass to the gravity well's pull, forcing the generator to work harder." He was right. The pirate's generator was designed to create controlled gravity fields for trapping ships, not to handle the combined mass of two vessels moving at high speed. As Kate pushed the Thunderchild deeper, dragging the Star Wanderer's mass with her, the generator began to overload. Warning lights flashed across the pirate ship's consoles. The gravity generator's power core started to destabilize under the strain. "Shut it down," Captain Black screamed. "Shut it down now." But it was too late. The generator overloaded, its artificial gravity field collapsing in on itself. Kate was ready. The Thunderchild's engines fired at full power, pushing against the collapsing field. "Captain Tom, full power to your bow thrusters on my mark," she commanded. "The collapse will create a slingshot effect. Time it right, and we'll both break free." Tom didn't hesitate. Despite his fear of Deathworlders, he had come to trust this human's judgment. When Kate gave the signal, he fired his thrusters. The two ships shot out of the dying gravity well like arrows from a bow, the energy of the collapse propelling them to safety. Behind them, the generator exploded harmlessly, its power spent. Captain Black's ship drifted powerless, along with the rest of his defeated fleet. On the Star Wanderer's bridge, the alien crew stared in amazement at their intact ship, then at the small human vessel that had saved them. "That," Reed whispered, "was the most incredible thing I've ever seen." "No," Tom corrected her, finally understanding something fundamental about humans. "That was intelligence and physics working together with raw strength. That's what makes humans truly dangerous and truly remarkable." He opened a channel to the Thunderchild. "Thank you, Kate. We owe you our lives." "Don't thank me yet," Kate replied, her voice turning serious. "We still need to deal with our pirate friends. And for that, I'm going to need to come aboard their ship." The pirates, listening on their own broken ships, felt a chill at her words. The battle in space had been impressive enough. Now they were about to learn what a human could do in person. The Thunderchild's airlock sealed with a soft hiss against Captain Black's disabled ship. Kate checked her simple boarding suit one last time. She had chosen not to bring heavy weapons, just a small stunner on her hip. After all, she was human. That was advantage enough. "Are you sure you want to board alone?" Captain Tom's worried voice came through her comm. "They still have their full crew." "Better this way," Kate replied, stepping into the airlock. "Less chance of accidents. Besides, it's time for the final lesson." The inner door opened, and Kate entered the pirate vessel. Emergency lights cast red shadows through the corridors. Her enhanced hearing picked up the sound of rapid movement. The pirates were gathering, probably planning an ambush. She smiled. Let them try. Around the first corner, 5 pirates waited with makeshift weapons. They had stripped metal bars from the walls, trying to prepare for close combat. When Kate appeared, they hesitated. None of them had seen a human up close before. "Last chance," Kate announced clearly. "Drop your weapons and surrender." One pirate, braver or more foolish than the rest, swung his metal bar at her head. Kate caught it with one hand, the impact barely registering through her Earth-evolved muscles. With a gentle squeeze, she crushed the metal like it was made of paper. The pirates stared in horror at the crumpled bar. Their species could barely lift such weights, let alone crush them. Before they could react, Kate moved. To the aliens watching through security cameras, she seemed to blur. One moment she was standing still, the next all 5 pirates were on the ground, disarmed and groaning. She hadn't even used her stunner. "Captain Black," Kate called out, knowing the ship's internal comms would carry her voice. "Your crew isn't trained for this. Don't make them fight a Deathworlder hand-to-hand." She continued through the ship, dealing with resistance the same way. Quickly, efficiently, and without causing serious harm. The pirates soon learned that their superior numbers meant nothing against human reflexes and strength. On the bridge, Captain Black watched her approach through security feeds. His remaining crew looked at him nervously. "She's not killing anyone," one of them noted, surprised. "She could, but she's just disabling them." "Because this isn't about killing," Black realized, finally understanding. "This is about teaching us a lesson." When Kate reached the bridge, the doors were sealed. She could have forced them open easily, but instead, she knocked politely. After a long moment, they opened. Captain Black stood there, his crew behind him. They had dropped their weapons. "We surrender," Black said simply. "You've proven your point." Kate nodded, stepping onto the bridge. "Do you know why I came in person?" she asked, removing her helmet to reveal a surprisingly gentle smile. "Not to fight. To show you that humans aren't just warriors." She moved to the ship's main console and began typing rapidly. "I'm sending out a distress signal to the local authorities. They'll pick you up, treat any injuries, and handle justice properly. No one had to die today." Black watched her work, confusion clear on his alien features. "I don't understand. We threatened to kill you. On our worlds, that would demand blood revenge." "That's the final lesson," Kate explained. "Humans didn't become strong just by fighting. We survived Earth because we learned when not to fight. Violence is easy. Mercy takes true strength." She turned to leave, then paused. "Oh, and the medical supplies you were going to steal. They're going to save thousands of lives. Think about that while you're in custody." Back on the Star Wanderer, Captain Tom and his crew watched in amazement as Kate efficiently coordinated with local authorities, arranged for the pirates' arrest, and helped secure both damaged ships until help arrived. "I thought Deathworlders were just monsters of violence," Reed admitted, but she used her strength to protect, to teach, and then to show mercy. Tom nodded, understanding now why that human traitor had given him the emergency beacon. "Maybe," he said, "we've been wrong about humans all along." 3 days later, the Star Wanderer docked at its original destination. The medical supplies were unloaded on schedule, and thousands of sick colonists would receive their treatments on time. But Captain Tom and his crew had delivered something else along with their cargo, a story that would spread across the galaxy. Kate stood in the station's observation deck, watching the medical transports ferry supplies to the colony below. She had stayed to ensure the Star Wanderer's safe arrival, despite Tom's insistence that it wasn't necessary. "Always finish what you start," she said when the captain approached her. "That's another human trait." Tom's blue-tinted skin reflected the station's lights as he stood beside her. His fear of Deathworlders had vanished, replaced by genuine respect. "The colonial governor wants to give you a reward," he said. "The medical supplies you saved will help treat an entire continent." Kate shook her head. "Just need enough credits to refuel the Thunderchild." Helping was the right thing to do. Humans don't need rewards for that. Reed joined them, her feather crests rippling with curiosity. "But you're a mercenary, aren't you? Isn't payment important?" "Being a mercenary means I choose my jobs," Kate explained. "And sometimes the best payment isn't in credits." She gestured to the colony below. "Those people will live because we stopped the pirates. That's worth more than money. The station's news feeds were already spreading their story. Reports showed footage from the Star Wanderer sensors, displaying how one small human ship had outmaneuvered 7 pirate vessels. But more importantly, they showed how that same human had chosen mercy over vengeance. "The Galactic Council has contacted me 3 times," Tom said. "They want to know why I had a human emergency beacon. Apparently, other merchant captains are requesting them now." Kate smiled. "Good. Maybe next time pirates will think twice before attacking merchant ships." "It's not just that," Reed added. "The Council is reviewing its classification of humans as dangerous Deathworlders. Your actions showed that Earth's harsh conditions created more than just warriors." The station's medical chief, a tall insectoid being, approached their group. "The last of the supplies have been distributed," she reported. "We estimate over 10,000 lives will be saved." She turned to Kate. "Thank you for protecting this shipment. Perhaps we have misjudged humans." "We're not perfect," Kate acknowledged. "Earth made us strong and capable of violence, yes, but it also taught us compassion. You don't survive a death world without helping each other." Tom's crew had gathered around them, each wanting to share their own observations of the battle. The sensor operator's crystal body sparkled as he described Kate's brilliant use of physics. Others spoke of her precision, her restraint, her mercy. "I've updated the emergency beacon's registration," Tom announced. "It now lists you as our preferred responder. Would you be willing to answer if we call again?" Kate looked at the gathered aliens, creatures who days ago would have fled at the sight of a human. Now they watched her with respect, even admiration. "Of course," she said, "but spread the word about what you learned. Humans aren't just strong because of our muscles or quick because of our reflexes. We're strong because we choose when to use those abilities and why." As the group dispersed, Kate received a message on her communicator. Other merchant ships in nearby sectors were requesting her contact information. The story of the human who protected instead of destroyed, who taught instead of terrorized, was spreading. "You've changed how we see humans," Tom said quietly. "That's quite an achievement." Kate looked out at the stars. "Maybe we've all learned something. You discovered that Deathworlders can be protectors, and I was reminded why humans explore space in the first place, not to conquer or frighten, but to help where we can." She turned to leave, but Tom had one last question. "Will you tell us more about Earth someday? About how your world shaped your people?" "Next time," Kate promised. "After all, the best way to understand humans is to understand where we come from. And that's a story worth telling." As the Thunder Child departed the station, its human pilot smiled. She had come expecting a simple rescue mission, but had accomplished something far more important. One small step toward changing the galaxy's view of humans, from feared Deathworlders to respected allies. Sometimes the greatest victories weren't won through strength at all.